Waking up with you for the thousandth time. Sipping coffee and juice.
Oh, Keith, good to see you. Look at this. We've got people rolling in already. Hey, Asher.
You hope I had a good time. Goodbye, we're done. I got you inside my head, playing every moment over and over.
We are going to get this party started in just a minute or two. In the meantime, enjoy the music by Juliet 4.
Waking up with him before the sun. We pour coffee and then read the Chicago Sun. Yeah. He tells me that I've changed his life, and now he wants me as his wife. Well, we had a good run, was fun, goodbye. I still got you inside my head.
Look at all these beautiful faces rolling in. Watch. I love this. I am the Bean. Good to see you. Commander Pete, good to see you.
I got Commander Pete.
I do have George here with me. He's being a little quiet and shy at the moment. I think he wants to wait for the cameras to come on. Oh, we are going to have so much fun with this because, needless to say, both George and I have feelings on this. We're going to start from the beginning and work our way through. All right. Let's get this party started. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the TTRPG Theater. I am your host, Rob Phantom NJ. And with me, I've got a now recurring guest, George, you may know him as Ultramagnus on the TLG Discord and other places. And if you've been to any cons, you might have seen him there, especially Mepacon and GaryCon for starters. I think that's where GaryCon was the place where I first met you in person.
Yeah, it was.
So, yeah, first of all, we do have a giveaway going. It is a Trollord Games giveaway, ! Ticket to enter. It is for a $10 coupon towards any digital product off of the Trollord Games website. Oh, excellent. Yeah, going to get to see you there, Pete. You know, I don't know if I've met you in person yet. Possibly. May not have realized it. But going to be a hell of a time. So many people that I know there. I really do need to actually resubmit my games with actual descriptions this time. Hey, there we go. We have the my bot decided that time to join the party. So first of all, George, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I just recovered from a weekend of gaming, and I'm getting my sleep back and everything else. So. Nice.
Yes. Good weekend of gaming it was too. I only got to enjoy the one day of it, but you know, we managed to survive, not totally be TPK'd in Rapina.
Yeah.
Dungeon Mr. Ty, so good to see you, sir. Got to catch you a little bit on Guild Superior channel on Tuesday night. That was a lot of fun. And let's see. Let's get this started. What we're talking tonight is the Adventurer's Backpack, a controller game supplement for Castles and Crusades. And in the backpack, there's a number of things. First of all, there's some optional rules for like adding spellcasting to different classes that more match the AD&D 1E 2E feel, like the Paladin, Ranger, Bard, and such. There's, of course, the backpacks themselves, which are a whole nother discussion. And then there are the additional character classes added. I don't remember the order in which all these things came out because I've only been following, TLG for basically for just about before right around the pandemic time. I don't know if these were the first classes added or were the classes for Arid added or the various codices for the Classicum and such. But anyway, these are like the first mainstream, I use mainstream in double quotes, classes added that I'm aware of for CNC. And I'm not going to lie, it's a mixed bag. It's a very, very mixed bag. So we're just going to start. We're going to dive right into them because there's a bunch of them, and I'd like to get to as many as we can. Not that we're really in a rush, but let's start off with number one. And George and I were just talking about this literally right before stream went live. The Arcane Thief. George, you want to start us off with this one?
Yeah. This is an interesting class. It's based. Its primary is intelligence, which that kind of sets the pace for it. The class can wear armor, breastplate all the way down to like leather, studded leather. So it has a decent defense going for the class. I think what else is nice about the class is it's a D8 hit points. So it's a more buffy type character. The problem with it is some of the casting. To really use the class, you have to have opponents, or you'd want opponents that are arcane casters. And I don't know how much use players would get out of this class, right? I don't know about you, Phantom, but I don't usually have a lot of arcane casters to face off with the party.
Yeah, I'm at the point where I try to have one caster at least these days in a lot of combats, only because if they don't, well, first of all, one of my parties has 2 wizards in it. It's actually the party that Asher is a member of in the campaign. It's got 2 wizards, and if I don't have one caster going against them, 1, the wizards are going to be starved for spells to put in their spell book, and 2, the wizards are very good at what they do. And if I don't have a caster going up against them, they're going to basically wreck anything, between the 2 of them and the other members of the party. Things are going to get wrecked really quickly. So I need a lot of times I'll need a caster unless I've got them up against very tough opponents. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, that was pretty freaking brilliant. I loved that Tensor's floating disc and levitate. That was smart thinking, got him out of danger's way and gave him a better angle thing. So here's one of the interesting things. The way this class plays, you're right. You have to have casters going against them, and casters have to be going against them kind of frequently. Right. Now, and arcane thieves, they might as well be called arcane vampires. I mean, you think about it. Not only they basic job is spell stealing, but you also have this little thing of steal essence. An arcane thief is able to feed upon the arcane energy of magical creatures and arcane spellcasters. Upon a successful touch attack, the arcane thief drains the magical essence of the creature or arcane spellcaster. And the creature can suffer 1d8 hit points of damage, and the thief can heal for 1d8 hit points of damage. That Sadness, good to see you. Um, it can be done multiple times. So yeah, hello.
Well,
You want
and when
you want to get in close, you better be wearing some kind of armor if you're going to be doing that, and better have some kind of hit points.
that's exactly it. So if you have an encounter, you have to play this character where you're running in to do that touch attack. Meanwhile, the rest of the party is going to be throwing silence or shooting at the wizard. It's a free for all, so you need to get in quick and do something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really a quick thing. Robert, when you said about the stealing a D8 and getting a D8, that's kind of an odd mechanic because you basically have to roll 2d8, one for how many hit points you take, one for how many you heal. It's odd wording.
Yeah, let me tell you.
It I would think that it was 1d8 for, but they make it kind of specific that
It really should have been just 1d8
one,
and
yeah,
I think it's just one of the things where the wording is more
right.
is bad, but I think it's the idea is 1d8 and it just gets transferred.
So this is a great class in a high magic world, right? A low magic world, you may not get to pull off everything that you want to do. Like with stealing the spells, which is why I think you'd want to play this class. The class itself has no spells aside from which you steal, and you can only hold them for a certain amount of time or put them in a spell book or a grimoire, whatever you want to call it.
Okay, here's the thing. If you steal it, you have to store it in the grimoire within 8 hours. I don't think the grimoire itself has, let's see, use special books to retain spells temporarily. The grimoire able to hold spells arcane through steals. Grimoire can only hold a total of 39 spell levels. I'm not seeing a time limit here. So what the grimoire to me acts as, it's almost like a spell scroll on a larger scale that,
right.
Which is fine. I'm actually kind of okay with this. But I do think you're right though. There is the possibility that the character can get spell starved. I guess theoretically the wizard could send them whatever spells they haven't used at the end of the day before their rest. They're willing to chance that.
Yeah.
But I mean, of course you are kind of stuck. Asher, I am sure there is some combination because it's spell levels and not spell number. I'm sure there's some combination of spells that they thought of and said, all right, that's going to be, that's enough. Basically it's what, 13 fireballs.
Oh.
Now the cool thing is if they get to start off, and theoretically that's the other thing, a wizard, if you have a wizard in the party, you could literally start off the adventure with the wizard going through, and as long as you don't dump them in the middle of the adventure as it is, the wizard going through and just filling them up with spells in some combination.
Right.
So, in a full-on dungeon crawl, I think this becomes more problematic than it is for, say a one-shot. From that perspective, I think the vampire thing is weird. Here's the other issue I have with the Steel Essence, though. Arcane Thief able to feed upon the arcane energy of magical creatures and arcane spellcasters. Nowhere does it just decide to tell you what a magical creature is.
Yeah.
Is it a creature that can cast spells? Is it a creature that has spell-like effects? What's a magical creature?
Exactly. Um, I was thinking the same thing, and the only creature I could think of off the top of my head was a dragon, and you don't really want to do this to a dragon.
Yeah,
You know,
no.
um, I don't see this character really growing much. The abilities, it looks like you get new stuff up until about third or fourth level. After that, it just seems like you know, you may get more spells that you can hold and things like that, but there's nothing really new for this character.
Actually,
I
that's one thing I'm noticing. It doesn't really, or the retain spell. Arcane Thief can choose spells in their grimoire to make permanent, so it does not disappear when cast.
Yeah,
A permanent spell can be cast once per day from the grimoire. Okay. Um.
but it's still rather limited in a low
Yeah.
magic world,
Yeah.
unless you're feeding off the wizard in the party, and that only gets you so far.
I mean, I admit on second glance, I'm not. It, it's one of those things where the player is going to need to understand what they're getting into.
Yeah,
Honestly, in a one shot, this class might actually be overpowered. It might be overpowered for a one shot. Unless
yeah.
you're having them go without a wizard in the party and that's their caster, because then suddenly, here's the thing. Here actually, I have an interesting way of looking at whether or not something is overpowered. How would the party? Oh man, I wouldn't be surprised. Uh, the Doc Shoulder plays one of the wizards in the campaign. So here's my questions: if you're a player character and you're, especially if you're playing a wizard, how much are you gonna hate if I throw an NPC what do you call it, a arcane thief as an antagonist?
Oh, yeah.
That's yeah, yeah.
You know,
That's something you need to consider, and I would kind of leave that up to my player. I mean, of course, the people who don't play casters aren't going to care. The people who play casters may care very, very much. If I'm not
I
kidding.
think I think this would be an interesting class or maybe abilities to tack on to the bard as well. I could see a bard kind of taking a spell from a wizard. I think it's just an interesting idea, but I think we covered this class pretty well.
Uh, yeah, it's one of those things where in general, I'm not fully. I have to admit, I'm not fully opposed to the class. When I for some reason I thought the grimoire was also limited, but with the grimoire, actually, funny thing is, I think the grimoire that 39 spell levels need to actually be cut down, make it more manageable. Or I might limit the number that they're allowed to start off with. And you're the guy who took joy in turning the paladin. Oh my goodness. No nonsense in my campaign, thank you. That nonsense will not
Right.
stand.
And that's for a 10th level caster or a
Yeah.
10th level arcane thief too.
Yeah. So
Um,
let's move on to the next one. And this is one that I do currently allow in my campaign, and that is the archer. The archer is also intelligence for their prime stat. They are also a D8 for their hit dice, so yeah, they're reasonable hit points.
yeah.
Weapons: all bows, all crossbows, one-handed weapons, and kind of like leather padded, leather up to ring, chain ring, scale mail. So they've got a decent armor selection.
Yeah.
One of the things I remember you bringing up was the question of arrow usage. And I would note that one of their skills, and it's one of the things that uses their prime. Uh, take note, TOG. This works a lot better when your prime attribute has a skill that supports it. Hashtag what's with the ranger. The Boyer Fletcher, so they can, repair bows, bowstrings, or arrows. I mean, so they can kind of do the work if necessary. Like, so for an extended campaign, especially this extended like wilderness campaign,
right?
if you're given time, down for downtime, I would let them make more arrows, or repair arrows, if they have the stuff with them. Interesting for me. I the one thing I don't, and I allow it right now because it's in the book, and I haven't figured out how I'd want to replace it. There is the improved initiative starting at second level, where if they have a bow and crossbow in hand, and an arrow knock, the archer gains +4 to their initiative roll. There's two problems I have with it. One is that you get to the point where it's like you almost have to assume, because no one wants to say, I've got an arrow knocked every single time we're about to, an initiative about to, it's like, you kind of assume that they're just going around with an arrow ready to go, unless there's some particular reason why they wouldn't.
Right.
So it becomes it becomes an annoyance to keep track of, or you just kind of assume it's happening in the first place. +4 an initiative roll is a lot.
It is.
That's that's a hell of a bonus for anything.
Yeah, I would knock that down probably to +2, honestly. Because even a +2 is a lot on a D10.
And I'm not entirely, it's like, I'm not entirely sure. I better use a pole armor. Well, as long as you're in melee, yeah, sure. If you're in melee,
but which pole armor?
But if if it's a question of hitting a target that's at any distance,
yeah.
I haven't, it's like, the only thing is I hate to like take something away or lessen it without figuring out what I want to do. Now, the interesting thing is the dual shots at level 4, which is powerful. One of the issues kind of have with the game is the fact, in terms of combat, is I liked the idea of getting more attacks per round as you went up in level. I think the lack of it anywhere else other than the fighters thing with one hit die creatures is, even that I think is kind of silly. I've considered adding multiple attacks later on for certain classes. I don't know if I want to do the 3 attacks every 2 rounds, just because it becomes a logistical nightmare. Not a nightmare, but it becomes a little heavier, more to deal with than I want. You have to remember, one, whether it's their second attack, whether they're still on the same target and it's the second attack on the same target. But I do like the dual shots. Now, here's where I find this, and some people, like, well, it's just a guy who shoots arrows. You know who I would consider an archer, in terms of standard, in terms of standard heroes? Legolas. Me, he's not a ranger. He's an archer.
No, he's not.
He's an elven archer. I mean, that's his entire shtick. So,
exactly.
Thematically, I think it's great. I mean, I like the idea of a guy who is just, he's Legolas. You want to go modern type stuff or comic stuff. He's Hawkeye. He's a guy who is very, very, very good with a bow and arrow. I do think that, personally, I do think it probably should be more bows than crossbows. I don't know how you feel about that.
I think it would be good. You would have to be careful with the dual shot, because a heavy crossbow is 1 arrow every other round. you might want to adjust that to, one every round, then, just to move it up a notch. But even that becomes a little bit hard to believe, with the
Actually,
dual shot.
actually, you know what you mentioned. It specifically states that dual shots is 2 arrows per round from without penalty from any type of bow except a crossbow.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of covered.
Good. Wow. A thorough rule. I'm kind of
It's
shocked.
it's also interesting that it's one of the. I think it might be the only class that has a called shot. Well, I
Yes.
guess
Oh,
the assassination thing for assassins kind of sort of is a called shot of sorts. It's
mhm.
but it is it is interesting.
This would be interesting to compare against the Zen Archer from Amazing Adventures, just to see how the two compare to each other,
Coming soon in a future thing, we're going to talk about amazing adventure character classes and how they might fit into your CNC campaign.
along with races. Thank
Uh,
you.
there we go. Uh, because there is a point where I will be looking at doing some of that.
Mhm.
Um,
You have the incapacitate arrow shot.
mhm.
It's like your cold shot, but it's it's something that the archer may need to do. And I think it's a lot of fun.
This is one of those things where attacker must remain stationary in their firing stance for one full round. This I do like. That's the I do like there is that, I talk about the fact that I don't like wizards having to stand there for their entire casting. Wizards can cast on, can do their 15 feet and move. They're already glass cannons. I mean, and very thin glass at that. Having them have to stand there is, to me, just really doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense. Unless they're doing some kind of ritual. Yeah, anyone move half move. I do like the idea of a call shot. They have to stand there and basically they're tracking their target with like ultimate aim precision and such. Um,
Yeah. But this kind of gives it the Quigley down under type approach where he's standing there, he's aiming, he's going to make his shot count. I can see this happening with this class.
One of the interesting things I find is it kind of goes unnoticed is the fact that I think they're the only class other than the fighter that gets a basically an expertise with their weapon. I mean, it makes sense, but
Right.
they get a +1 hit and +1 to damage with any bow or crossbow. They don't even have
Yeah.
to choose a particular weapon. They can just bow or crossbow. Any of
Yeah.
them.
Um, and depending on how much time they have, earlier I was saying that the arrows would be an issue. I mean, it all depends on how much time they have to replenish their arrows. But it's also a little bit of a one-trick pony. The only thing you're going to be doing is shooting arrows most of the time. When you get into melee attacks, it depends on your DM or CK if they're going to allow you to shoot at point blank range without, that house rule of, can you fire a bow at someone 5 feet away or not?
Right. Well, I I've seen enough videos to know that minimum range really isn't a thing. And I've seen real videos of people doing stuff at like minimum range to know that that's not really a thing. You can shoot someone up right up and close and personal.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I considered, one of the things that I considered doing with this class, but I honestly don't think it really needs it, is the thought of lowering the ranges for them on bows and crossbows, or on bows anyway, not crossbows. Crossbows are what they are, but the idea of maybe over time taking off like 10 feet or 15 feet at certain levels off of medium and long range. Honestly, with the dual shots, I don't think they need it. I think having dual shots at 4th level is fine. The fact that they can
Yeah.
choose multiple targets. So, I mean, initiative, the +4, maybe get it down to +2. But even then, I only count it's the first round of combat. They don't get to do that. And
Exactly.
if they're surprised, it doesn't happen. So, if they go first, they're not killing anyone in the first round.
Their damage is going to be pretty well maxed out to that of the bow, so it kind of fits in. Unless your DM allows you to have strength bows from prior editions of things. But you're looking at basically 2 attacks per round. It seems solid. I do like the idea of sense arrow. I like that impending doom.
By the way, I had a complete failure to read. The first ability, archery. An archer is able to use the environment to their advantage by firing with the wind, leading targets, and using their natural aptitude to shoot an arrow or a bolt greater than normal distance. This arrow allows them to double the effective range of bows and crossbows.
Yeah.
That's
a bit much. But, how often is a archer or whatever class going to shoot beyond normal distances? I don't think it's all that often. This character in a dungeon may not be as optimal as one would want it to be. You have 40 feet, maybe 50 feet in a dungeon before it turns to the left or right, that kind of stuff.
Oh, a couple of things from the chat. Asher, you're right. Most of the AA classes are modern time ports of classic classes. We'd have to take a look at the ones that really are not covered. I think the Duelist is one of them. Commander Pete, it's such a problem, whatever composition the party has and what weapons, etc. The CK can design. Yeah, absolutely. The CK can design encounters to be interesting, customized to the party, for sure. You do want, that's one of the things that goes into consideration. And interestingly enough, it kind of speaks to one of the issues I had with running 5e was it almost got to, and why I prefer a game that's slimmed down and, a little bit more understandable in terms of party dynamics and such and what the party can do in a game like CNC is that I like being able to tailor classes to what a party, so it's interesting for the party as much as possible, not every encounter, obviously, but make sure there's somewhere where basically one class can show off for a while. Have a target-rich environment where the archer can go crazy. Awesome. Not every encounter is going to be like that. The big thing. Yeah, exactly. The big thing is I want to make sure that I'm giving, making things that are interesting for them, challenging for them without making sure that I'm not specifically making an encounter out to screw them, which is a thing that I end up doing in 5e because I realized that if I didn't specifically counter the abilities my party had, they were as long as they played smart, they were going to just run right through anything I threw up against them, unless I had something completely above their power level, in which case I was going to wipe the floor with them. There wasn't a fun middle ground. Exactly. Keeping it dynamic and interesting. Yeah, that's it. DM John. Yeah, I agree. I think the Archer works. I've had the class in my campaign. Haven't really, I can't really say I have an issue with it. I do think that it should. I do think that I need to reconsider multiple attacks for the other classes. Just a little spoiler. I am looking at revamping some of the regular classes for my campaign because there are a couple that I think are kind of suffering at the moment. Yeah. So let's move. Unless you have anything else you want on this one, George, let's move on to the next one.
No, I'm good with the next one. The Divine Knight, my favorite. It is.
Oh, wait, hold on a second. No.
This is your mana-based cleric.
Wait, the Divine Knight?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. So let me ask you a question. Do you like this class?
I do. I like it a lot. I played it. Once I had a player playing it. It was a lot of fun. Um, I'll tell you this. We learned not to cast spells in a mana-based system because the way this chart works is, for us at least, we couldn't stop. Like, it was hey, I can do this, therefore I'm going to. And we burn through mana so fast because you literally can cast any spell that you want from the PHB. Well, whatever materials you have. But yeah.
All right. I'm going to start off with my main reason that I do not like this class at all. And I'm going to highlight it right there. Divine Knights are a physical manifestation of a deity and have a specific purpose to undertake. If there was ever any class that just screamed out main character syndrome built into the class itself, hello. I don't understand how you have this character class in a campaign without everybody else just basically being, okay, we're here to support that one.
Yeah.
Or,
that's flavor text. It's flavor text.
Ignore the fluff.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Oh, okay. I mean, somebody's going to need to rewrite different fluff for it then, because, I'm going to have players who are going to want to understand what their character class is all about. And they're never going to see that or any part of it that suggests that, hey, I'm pretty much an avatar, of a god. Don't mind me.
Paladins worship this guy. No.
Right. Yeah. It's like, they're what the paladins aspire to be.
So the cool part is the mana system. It is tight. A 0 level spell costs 1 mana point, or that's how we were playing it. Mm-hmm. You do, I believe, get your con bonus to the class for your mana points. Also a good buff. One thing we did differently with this class is that we did not allow to cast higher level spells. Straight out, that part is broken, and the wording around how when you do try to cast a higher level spell, it's kind of broken. It doesn't quite work. I think it works up to like 2nd level or so as written, and then it's not really effective. So we just took that out.
So I'm looking at this. It's like, all right, so a fourth level spell would cost 5 mana points, and to be able to cast a 4th level spell, they'd have more than 5 mana points at the time, but they'd have to be level 4. So a level 4 can cast a level 4 cleric spell.
Yeah, that's why we took it out.
So they'll use half their mana pool, but
yeah, it's the Hail Mary, really, because you're really tapping into your deity. You're telling him what to do. You are your deity. What am I saying? From the fluff text.
Cast spells that are higher than the caster's level, they must make a special constitution check. All right. Yeah. So they can cast a higher level spell, they just have to make a CL check for it then. All right. Well, then you get into the deific voice. Hello again, main character syndrome here. I mean, granted, now here's the other problem is now you're wandering into the knight's territory. And I mean, it's a divine knight, but now you've got basically knight plus. All the party buffing. Actually, the interesting thing is at least they don't have to worry about the damn horse.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything about a damn horse. No damn horse there. Um,
We may have trouble in the chat here. Commander Pete's calling out paladins are their own type of trouble. I hate paladins in the party as a player. If they're played right, they're just frustrating. So I think I need to make a GaryCon event called Paladins, 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 and invite Pete to that.
and that sadness, I feel that Payne had a 2EDM that wouldn't let people play Paladin because he thought it was impossible for PCs to play them accurately. The idea that they're morally perfect. Oh boy. Listen, nobody, it's a matter of their actions. It's, basically the whole idea of lawful stupid was the fact that the paladin was seen as having like no nuance to it whatsoever. And, even paladins that they had, even things that they had, like in the Arthurian, in Deities and Demigods, the original Deities and Demigods, they had the Arthurian characters in it, and a bunch of them were paladins, and they all still made mistakes. They weren't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. No worries, Jay. Good to see you. We will be raiding into you when we're done. I don't need them to be morally perfect. They need to be, they need to be good. They need to be on the side. I don't even call it law and chaotic, lawful and chaotic. It's the difference of order and chaos to me. That's the, because law, as we all know, can be, law can be broken, and even order can be broken, but it's the, chaotic. Chaotic doesn't really even describe it. It's just, yeah, there are issues. There are issues.
But the voice ability of the Divine Knight, it does creep up there with the Knight, and I think it bumps heads.
Yeah, it does.
The class is definitely not a replacement for a cleric. This is for your holy warriors, right?
By the way, going back to that, get rid of the fluff. At 8th level, the Divine Knight gains the ability to project the power of their deity. Divine Knight makes the deity's presence known to all around them by calling forth a deific aura.
Well,
Main
maybe
character
they're
syndrome.
They might be egotistical alignment.
By the way, Commander P, if a paladin isn't righteous, they're not playing it right. They can be righteous. They can also be a complete ass.
Yes.
That's the part that's missing. That's the part that's missing. There are characters that are paladins who, are jerks. I mean, they do all the right things, but
yeah, it doesn't say they have to be happy with doing the right thing either.
That's also true.
Right?
I like that. Righteous is a complete ass. There we go. Oh man.
So
yeah.
Do you think that aside from the fluff, would you allow such a character
in my campaign? Hell no. Not as a player character. Oh no. No. This is the kind of character that I would create if I was playing if I was playing like a one person campaign, which is me and somebody else playing, because I can build a campaign around this character for sure. I am not subjecting other players to Mr. Main Character syndrome here. No.
All right. What else do we have here? Do we have time for a few more? I think so.
Yeah. Absolutely.
The Forsworn.
Actually, hold on a second. I just noticed something's missing. Did you notice that the Divine Knight doesn't say anywhere where their HP and stuff is? Or actually, or maybe that is it. Then that's right. It's the way that it appears. That's terrible. That's terrible formatting. It appears
It
on the
is.
page
Yes.
thing. Ignore what you're seeing
Yeah.
at the top because that is not for the Divine Knight, or that is for the Divine Knight, not the Forsworn.
Yeah, so it's the old TLG format where the experience points, hit points based to hit are displayed at the end of the character. Because I thought Castles and Crusades was really cool when I could make a D6 wizard. I was like, that's awesome. And here I was looking at the rogue.
By the way, Commander Pete, I like the Primal Druid too. To me, the Primal Druid, and we'll hopefully get to them in a little bit, where we might, is basically your Australian tour guide. Yes, everything here is going to try to kill you. Of course, the Primal Druid, like an Australian tour guide, might have fun at your expense. Watch out for them drop bears. Because Australia needs a joke when everything literally is trying to kill you. But the Forsworn,
Yes.
I love this class in theory. I actually maybe hold on a second. Is Forsworn? Okay, yeah. So Forsworn is basically those who pretty much have had it with the gods. I mean, it's kind of like, yeah, no. Listen, I've had enough of your silliness. Would you please leave me alone? Your constant demands for service are annoying. Go away now.
So what I'm hearing on this one, you like the flavor text, and this would be the natural nemesis against the Divine Knight.
Oh,
you want a
goodness.
villain? You get a villain.
That see you later. See you in a bit, Jay. This is put the Divine Knight and the Forsworn in a room together, and then just roll initiative because it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Let's look at it. So it is charisma as a prime.
Mm-hmm.
What are they doing with that charisma?
The combat attrition, but that's a 10th level, so that's not really.
That's a long time for.
Yeah, that's not really applicable.
They got to begin play with the +1 bonus to intelligence, which is nice.
Yep. +1 against the saving throws from divine spells. Even higher against divine knights. I would pencil that in.
Iron certainty, though the gods may interfere or set aside aid and balance, or even act against you, in the end it is one's own ability that will tell the story's end. Forsworn possesses an iron confidence in themselves and their own abilities. They're not plagued by doubt or indecisions, but face things with a confidence. And talk about burying the lead. What?
Yeah.
All this flavor text. For this reason, they get a bonus to all attribute checks as per the table below. Bonus added to any other bonuses when making an attribute check. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's not a lot. I know it kind of bums out there. It looks good, but
I mean, and the thing is, it also starting at 3rd level also buffs companion bonuses, checks.
Yeah,
which is nice. I mean, this is a hell of a guy you have someone to have around when you're worried about making saving throws. Because yeah. Huh. Muscle memory. At 5th level, the Forsworn's peculiar background and training has imbued them with an almost spiritual connection on the task at hand. So they get a dexterity bonus on all initiative rolls. Okay. I somehow never noticed that. There's another class that actually gets bonus initiative rolls. At 5th level. It's reasonable. I mean, you're at most you're going to get a +3.
I
Yeah,
don't, and it's very cool and everything. It just doesn't come together for me, right?
yeah.
The charisma is prime. I don't quite know why this class gets a bonus to their initiative. You know, um, the spiritual connection. That could go for any class. It's just not jiving with me. Is
It's
it working for you? It's
it,
cool. It's
it's
definitely cool.
it's kind of thrown together. I mean, the more I look at it, I love the concept of the character who's basically had it with the meddling of the gods and said I'm going to believe in myself, but it's like things are thrown together that first of all, like I have the same problem with this that I have with the Ranger. How do you have a prime attribute? And at least this one eventually comes into play. How do you have a prime attribute that for the first 9 levels has no impact on your class abilities?
Yeah.
That just okay at 10th level, great. How many campaigns are going to 10th level?
Can I provide my theory on primes?
Oh, go yeah, please. Well, does it hold true for here?
I don't know. I turned to the table of contents.
Let's
Let's see,
see.
2 intelligence, 2 charisma, or a bunch of charisma. The While Rob checks this, I'm going to mention my theory on primes is that everything in the player's handbook had to be balanced out. Uh, you know, Constitution was barbarians and monks. Intelligence, wizards and illusionists. Charisma was bards, paladins, and knights. And I thought that they needed something to go with strength. Oh, Dex was the assassin and the rogue, but
Mhm.
they needed to add in um, strength for the ranger and the fighter to make it kind of balanced in that way.
Yeah,
And the knight came along later too.
and if that's the reason why they did it, but the knight has charisma, I believe. I don't think the
Yeah,
knight is strength. The knight has charisma.
right. The knight is charisma, but that came along later, not core.
Right.
I think the illusionist came along later too, but
So here I would allow this. I would allow the class. It's kind of. I mean, it's one of those things where I don't really have something to say no to. Um, I it offers an interesting aspect for role play. Um, does it excite me? No, not really. Because there's just, I mean, it actually interestingly becomes a kind of passive support class. With the attribute bonus.
yeah.
Um, but it's weirdly designed. It's just a little weirdly designed. Um, let's move on. By the way, the
Sad.
D10 and any armor and weapons. So I mean, it's playable. You know,
Oh yeah.
they'll be able to do what they want. But you're saying,
The messages in the channel.
uh-huh.
Uh, Possibly charisma just to make it harder to multi-class into. Otherwise, it's probably a math. Oh, sorry, I lost my spot.
Uh,
Like I
yeah.
said, I think they do that to mess with the emceeing, the gaming.
I think you might be right about that, Pete. Mostly an RP class. Yeah, it's kind of just there. I mean, there's nothing to say. I don't think there's anything in there that would stop me from having the class in campaign.
Yeah.
Somebody wanted to play it. The Ethereal
Oh,
Knight. Hey, all the knights, all of them. I don't know what to make of this class. Um, I feel this is another one of those that kind of needs a campaign built around it. When you go with
Yeah.
the Ethereal Knight as a plane walker, I mean, if you're having that kind of campaign, fantastic. Uh, the fact that they start with a single item that is associated with the character in a meaningful way. The item is sentient and possesses an alignment and a will. Does not have to necessarily reflect the alignment of the character. Lawful good character, chaotic evil item. Uh, yeah, Pete, I'm with you there.
Yeah.
Elric of Meldabone as a CNC class. Are we referring to the Ethereal Knight? Because I sadly only Elric. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I really need to get
And
around to reading those novels one of these years.
And I think Pete is spot on with, someone taking the Forsworn is doing it from a role playing aspect. And, hats off to them for that.
Yeah,
No.
no, I agree with that. There's nothing, I don't see anything in there that's objectionable. It doesn't require something specifically for them. I don't think it's, I mean, some people may not like the initiative for the, CKs may have a certain appetite for the attribute bonuses and such, but to me, it's not the worst thing in the world. Makes for an interesting, makes for an interesting role play class, and it's also helps as a support class, so they're not the only one getting a benefit. And you can always ramp up. It allows you to ramp up the difficulty of things by adding more to the challenge levels. Things. They're away. Basically allows the party to do bigger and better things.
So this class with the Fate's Arm, first level Ethereal Knight, you pick a single piece of equipment, weapon, armor. You have to roll randomly on the chart. So if you're pick your alignment, then roll on the chart to see what it is that you're going to get. That could cause a lot of problems. If you're, neutral good and you pick up a chaotic evil piece of equipment, but then again, this could also lead to more focus on this class. You know what I'm saying? Like it becomes the assassin almost, that level of attention.
Yeah.
I got issues within my own class or
I
with the
mean,
party.
the whole relationship with the item, because again, the item could be basically diametrically opposed to the knight itself, due to alignment.
Yeah.
There's
The item purpose. We can't forget about that. Because now all of a sudden, this is where I was saying, like the assassin, you got this inner turmoil now. You got a weapon that you're trying to control, or, you see where it's starting to go a little sideways.
I think Pete hit it on the head. Waiting for Steve to finish the Planes book, which he is not going to do anything about until everything else is shipped. Saying that right here now. I'm kidding myself, but a man can dream. I've got my Amazing Adventure stuff, but they've got 5 other Kickstarters that I'm waiting on. So
you have the item issues, and now all of a sudden you ratchet it up a notch, right? And you got into intuition. They grasp new concepts easily, so they get a +1 to intelligence. Not really sure where that's coming from.
A +2 bonus to all intelligence checks. Ooh.
I can see it helping with the languages. You're going to different planes or contacting other planes, which that comes in with third level with the plane shift. Let's talk about splitting the party.
Oh, Pete,
As you
don't
can
get me
only,
wrong. I've never. I'm sorry, George. I've never,
yeah,
I'm never worried about them actually delivering. They do deliver. I'm just frustrated that they keep launching, and part of it is not their fault. I understand that. Um, the having access to the Gygax stuff and needing to act on it on top of the OGL thing, which was its own mess, just made things a big mess. But they need to get a lot of the stuff out the door before they add anything else. Um, yeah, intuition. All right, it's fine. But then you get to level 3, and the Ethereal Knight is able to plane shift. Come on, this is. I mean, it's so far outside of the rest of the CNC stuff. Basically, you have a Divine Knight, an Ethereal Knight, and a Forsworn walk into a room, and the Forsworn just has had enough of both of them. One's dipping into other planes, the other one thinks he's God. What's going on here?
so I think what would be interesting instead of plane shift would maybe be a limited dimension door, in number of feet or something like that. Something a lot more controlled where you're not plane shifting, but, a skip, for lack of better terms.
By the way, raise your hand. You can do this at home. And anyone else find it interesting besides me that they released a book or released a character class that can plane shift before they ever released a book on the planes?
True.
Seems like a small gap. It's little. I don't know. Maybe when Codex of the Planes comes out, I might revisit this. But this class, I mean, I haven't even gotten to the other abilities. I'm already a hard no on this class.
Yeah.
It's so far outside of everything else that, like, just and then at 5th level, see invisible. Wow. I mean, really?
Yeah.
That class is like so far to me, it's the most OP of the OP, which is saying one when you have one that is a literal avatar of a deity. Like, what is going on here?
So we can't even compare this to any of the other classes in the PHB.
No.
Yeah.
10th level. Yeah, by 10th level, you can summon a planar ally. Oh, D12 hit dice, and oh man, it's. I mean, the experience table is rough, but not rough enough. If they made that double so that you had to get like 6,000 experience points, get level 2, maybe I'll think about it. Maybe.
Yeah. I didn't realize the D12. That is rough. Are we at time, Rob?
Oh no, we're Jay's gotten started, but we don't have to rush, or we don't have to stop. Let's go to the magic user. So, magic user has the feel of what would be in 5e or other terms, the sorcerer. Is that the feeling that you're getting from this class?
It's I think really a class that uses magic to buff themselves or buff others. So they can start to take magic and enhance an item for a little bit in combat.
That sadness called it artificer. Okay, all right.
Yeah. So you can use these siege points. You start to redirect them. You start to buff up someone's armor, or you buff up their sword or whatever weapon. And I think it gives a little bit more.
Anyone actually ever tried playing this class, or had someone try playing this class in their game? Because I I admit I don't know what to think of this, and I probably wouldn't really know what to think of this until I had someone actually attempt to use it.
Um,
I mean, they've got
I had
they can any weapons and armor, so they're not combat. They're not. They can actually be frontline, and their XP table is actually pretty good.
and they don't cast spells.
Mm-hmm.
All they're doing is manipulating magic items more so. Um, so like, what, we're going into this fight. I'm going to make the fighter's sword a +5 or a +4. To give them. They're manipulating magic, I would say.
So enhancing spell cast by another spell. Yeah, I would kind of need to chart this out.
Yeah.
See, sort this is one where I think part of the issue I'm having is without having tried to play it, it's hard to tell how broken it is or is not. Um, I put this one as a maybe.
Yeah. I think a lot of these come down to the player who's playing the class and how much they're going to break it in ways. Um, you know, if they're like more of a munchkin, they're going to optimize this, to the extreme.
So, Willie, you said it had a seasoned player give it a try, found it lacking in magic. So, let me ask you a question, Willie. Did they understand that it wasn't a spell casting class? Because I'll be honest, when I first looked at it, I thought it was a spell casting class of a different type, and maybe I'm confusing it with something else, but which is entirely a possibility.
I think the main part is we look at this as the magic user.
Right, which was
First
the
edition.
first edition wizard. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I need to I think I kind of need to chart this out. And thank you, That's Sadness, for the mentioning the artificer, because that was knew it was just a buffing class that would manipulate items magic. Okay.
Yep.
Got it lacking. Okay, right. That's fair. I mean, it's entirely possible. Um I would need to kind of maybe chart it out and see how things work, see where it may or may not get out of control. But I don't think there's necessarily anything off the top of my head that jumps out as objectionable to me. Poetic Wine, good to see you, my friend. He is one of my old college buddies back in my AD&D, 10 people sitting around a pool table playing second edition, running into the wee hours Oathsworn. I think the concept of the Oathsworn is pretty straightforward. I find it interesting that they are a charisma based class.
Yeah.
2 days later. Fueled on beer, pizza, Chinese food, and ribs. Let's see, Oathsworn. Binding oath is bound to the concept of alignment. They're forever involved in the eternal struggle between good and evil, marked by swearing a binding oath. Kind of a play on the what do you call it, the fifth edition. Well, I don't know. The fifth edition kind of like takes the idea and makes the entire paladin thing interesting. Which is part of the things I didn't like about fifth edition paladins. I hate the whole oath concept for a paladin.
It jumps in real quick. I mean, look, you got the binding oath. and that's, I think, a good role play aspect. The cold shots right away. We're reducing the amount for a cold shot. So now you're promoting cold shots into your game, right? Which may or may not be a good thing. Detect alignment. You know, all of a sudden, we're borrowing a paladin type ability. Um, Natural armor class bonus of +2 to all creatures they are sworn to oppose. So, I don't want to say rangerish in ways, but you got that favored opponent type thing. Um, Spell resistance uh against those that they're opposed. So now you're sticking to a theme. Like if it's undead, let's say you're playing, what is it, a Barrow
I am
Um,
not, but
no, I'm just saying, if you're going on an undead adventure type scenario, the Greg Gillespie
yeah.
undead,
Mm-hmm.
that's what you want to pick here for what you're sworn against. Unless it's alignment, it's all based upon your oath. So it it seems okay. But, third level chosen weapon, you know, automatic initiative, disarm, you get different abilities. It's starting to ramp up pretty quick. I think it's cool, but I think it can really go wonky. And again, an experience from third edition that we had was one player made an undead cleric type character. All he could do really well was fight undead. The DM threw undead against us once or twice, realized this guy could decimate them all at once, and that was the last time we fought undead in that campaign.
Hmm. Pete mentions you'd be okay with it. They could replace the call shots with something else. I mean, considering call shots goes from a -8 to a -4, I think reducing it to -2, -2 at 5th level is a little much. Um, yeah, I
Cold shot to the head every other turn.
I mean, granted, here's one of the things where the text is problematic. As the Altsworn's binding oath is bound to the concept of alignment, they are forever involved in the eternal struggle between good and evil, marked by swearing a binding oath, or perhaps they were born under the aegis of the oath. Oppose the chosen aspect, whether it is lawful, chaotic, or neutral. So you would kind of assume that they're either opposed to good or they're opposed to evil. So once the oath is chosen, it cannot be changed. It is important to note that the Oathsworn need not be in alignment naturally opposed to the aspect they've chosen to combat. A chaotic good character can fight the forces of chaos. Well, that they should say chaotic evil, not chaos, because you're not. To me, I would make them pull a full alignment. You're against chaotic evil. You're against lawful evil. Chaotic good, lawful good. So obviously, I'm not one for evil characters in my game. I'm looking for heroes, not villains. Call shot. I think this is one of those things that can get, because of the fact that in most campaigns you're going to be looking to overcome evil. I think this one gets. I think this one gets to be a bit OP. Gets to be OP. A lot of there's, it's like you almost have to throw non-alignment stuff at them, stuff that isn't diametrically opposed to or is not against their oath in order to make it interesting. And yeah, it's one of those things I like in favor. I don't like it mechanically. Ugh.
It has a lot going for it. It does. I think it just needs to be tweaked.
Yeah, I think it definitely needs. I can't see using it as is, which is a shame because in theory I kind of like it. Hey Pat, we're allowed to run late. We've had sessions where we've ended early, so and we're enjoying the topic. And plus D10, plus I can wear any weapons or any armor on top of having the natural AC bonus, which doesn't say that they need to be unarmored for it.
Right.
The pacer. All right. I think the pacer, I think this is the last one we'll do. We'll have a second section because I do want to talk about the others, especially the Primal Druid, the Rune Mark, and the others. They are definitely worthy of a conversation. But we'll make the pacer our last one. This is, to me, it's a character. I like the class idea. I do think it fits a specific type of campaign.
Mm-hmm.
It is a campaign. City-based works best, but doesn't have to be. But this is an intrigue campaign. This is a campaign filled with politics and secret missions and lots of other stuff. It's cool in terms of being a character that I kind of go back to in terms of feel, mechanically speaking, of a thief acrobat from the book that I really hate, Unearthed Arcana, in first edition. But it kind of gives that feel to it. But there's also the other stuff, that the flavor abilities that it adds, the tactical observation, the stuff like scale, the basically a lot of stuff for just getting from place to place quickly and doing things in secret, but not specifically being a thief. I'm interested to know what you think about that, George.
I agree. I think it would work well. I'm a little confused over that they use scale and conceal. Those are usually the ones for the ranger for their hide and climb walls.
Because conceal here, and it goes back to conceals in urban areas, the rangers in the wilderness. Basically, they're an urban ranger.
Right, but conceal was for wilderness, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the ranger. Here they're making conceal for urban environments.
Right.
And that's, I guess it's because it's based upon the area that they're doing it. But, I would have came up with something different for an urban environment, like Shadow or something.
I guess. I mean, they do specify that it has to be urban. As long as it says, directly says it, I'm okay with it being the same name. Sometimes, I mean, it's one thing where you can outwit yourself, like trying to get too cute with stuff like that.
Well, we all have our hang-ups, Rob. Some of us it's fluff, some of it's terms. No.
It's kind of like the thief monk, but without the stealing or fighting. Funny that you should mention that, Pete, because Asher plays a rogue monk in my campaign.
I think the one thing that might be missing from the acro running is that they keep their pace. It doesn't display to me what the advantages of this class are. So I would expect that they would not be hindered by certain terrain or something, that they keep up their movement, or even give them maybe a delayed fast movement like the monk, because they're doing all this stuff to run as fast or go through terrain that isn't as easy for anyone else. So
we got Willie where they're at with the TLG question of the day. But what defines urban? How big of a town city do you need?
What if it's
would be
like to
nice for
his
that to be
point,
fine, right? It's
like a ruined city. Would he still, is that still like an urban environment?
oh, what kind of
I
city?
would think so. Like a ruined city, one underground maybe, or uninhabited. And I think I could give that to that character class. Old walls, that kind of stuff. Certain
Hmm.
parts of a dungeon, maybe, just to make it work so that class isn't, you know, rendered completely useless in different environments.
Pete kind of hits on one of the things. The fact that there's a D10 hit die seems a little out of place for this. The other
Oh,
thing
yeah, yeah.
is the other part is the armor allowed. Breastplates,
Hmm.
chainmail, halberd, and I mean, what? That's huh? And you're allowed to make you. I think you can do. Hold on a second. Let's check the moves silently. Um,
Yeah. Even the
hey,
base to hit is really good.
the ability cannot be used if armors other than those allowed or I don't understand if there was anything I was going to change. I mean, the D10 hit die is a lot. Okay. I mean, I'm not the but the fact that they can wear chainmail and breastplates and stuff and
Yeah.
still do their thief-like abilities is way off. That's problematic.
Honestly, well, I guess it's more somewhat in the line with the Ranger. Um, Although it doesn't say, oh yeah, it does. In both situation, also the ability cannot be used if armors other than those are allowed are worn. I don't know about that.
And those are all
Because
allowed.
I know
Yeah.
the Ranger I think can use any, but if it's like a certain weight or whatever. Um, but the class does have some things going for it, but I always felt it was more of a rogue type character rather
Well, but
than this.
yeah, that the BTH and that's especially since the XP charge on a little on the higher end, but not enough for all the advantages it has. I don't know. Um, I if I would have to scale down at armor list available.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
Pete's hitting on it.
and a BTH is. I mean, it's fine if it's meant to be fighting. Still, the BTH being high, but the abilities it has with that armor just does not fly.
Right.
All right, so we've gone a little bit over, but um, as a teaser, next time we do this, and when we do part two of our look at Venture's backpack classes, we will start off with the Primal Druid, and um, Pete, I'm with you there. It's more powerful than what I first considered. Too. Yep. Um, we will be starting off with the Primal Druid, which I do allow in my game. It's an interesting take. Um, and I right now there's only one thing that bothers me about the class, but we'll get to that next time. So, let's get around to the giveaway. If you have not yet entered, it is exclamation point ticket to enter. And what do I currently have? Oh, we've got 7 entries. Excellent, excellent. I'm going to close that 8. Fantastic. I'm going to close the giveaway. And today's winner, Roger Keith. Congratulations, sir. Part 2 spoiler. Huge argument. Was it huge argument about rune mark? We're gonna. And it's funny. It's a good thing that it ended up in the second part because Rune Mark is going to take a lot of discussion. I get the feel. All right. So let's get that raid started. We're going to be raiding into Lord Gazumba. He does have a campaign session. If you are not familiar and want to see some first edition / second edition gaming complete with terrain, fantastic terrain and miniatures being used, hang out for the raid, please. And with that, George, thank you so much for joining me once again.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks for having me.
I look forward to our next session. And bring it to the stream ending screen. We will be raiding Lord Gazumba in 3, 2, 1. See you all on the flip side.